Welcome dear students. Today our topic of deliberation is food chemistry, and in this program we will learn about hormones. The main objectives of today's deliberation are classification of hormones, mode of action for hormones, functions of the hormones, hormonal receptor system, transportation of hormones or endocrine system, and disorders of hormones. Hormones are defined as organic biological active compounds of different chemical nature. Chemically, they are amino acid derivatives, polypeptides or proteins or steroids. Hormones are produced and secreted by endocrine glands into circulation. They have profound physiological and biochemical activities. Hormones are the chemical messengers of body. Human body secretes and circulates around 50 different hormones. Endocrine cells from the glands produce most of the chemical substances. A gland is an organ that consists of cells which secretes material into other regions. Human body has two types of glands vis-a-vis exocrine glands and endocrine glands. First, exocrine glands. Exocrine glands secrete non-hormonal chemicals into ducts which transport to a specific location inside and outside the body. For example, sweat glands, mucus glands, salivary glands and few digestive glands. Second, endocrine glands. They are ductless glands located throughout the body. They secrete hormones into the bloodstream through the fluid surrounding the cells. The hormones then enter the blood system to circulate throughout the body and activate target cells. Specific stimulus for hormone secretion is nervous impulse and concentration of the certain compound in blood passing through the endocrine gland. The endocrine system works with nervous system. Now, classification of hormones. Hormones can be classified into three categories based on the chemical nature. First, amino acid derivatives. These hormones are derivatives of amino acid tyrosine. They act as hormones, for example, thyroxine, adrenaline and noradrenaline, dopamine. Polypeptides and proteins. Many hormones are polypeptides or proteins by nature. These include insulin, glucagons, vasopressin, parathormone and hormones from anterior lobe of the pituitary body and hormones produced by the gastrointestinal tract. Erythropoietin EPO is a glycoprotein. It acts on the bone marrow to increase the production of red blood cells. Steroid hormones. These contain steroid nucleus. The hormones of this category include male sex hormones, androgens, female sex hormones, estrogens and progesterones, and hormones of the adrenal cortex. Mode of action of hormones. Hormones exert their actions as endocrine action, paracrine action and autocrine action. The mode of action of hormones can be explained under three modes. First, action on cell membrane. Second, action on intracellular enzyme systems. And third, action on cell nucleus. First, action on cell membrane. Hormones act on cell membranes in two different ways. They may alter the permeability of cell membrane and they may activate some membrane-bound enzyme system. Hormones may alter the permeability or transport of monosaccharides, amino acids, cations and nucleotides across the cell membrane. Thus, growth hormone increases amino acid transport into muscle cells and insulin increases the active transport of glucose, amino acids, potassium ion, nucleosides and inorganic phosphate into muscle cells, etc. Few hormones activate membrane-bound enzymes. The only enzyme found in cell membrane sensitive to hormones is adenyl cyclase, which converts ATP to cyclic AMP. Cyclic AMP activates glycogen, phosphorylase and hydroxylation of corticosteroids and regulates glycogen synthetase activity. The level of cyclic AMP in cell membrane may be increased or decreased by hormonal action depending on the hormone and the tissue involved. For example, glucagons may produce more cyclic AMP in the liver cell membrane as compared to that in muscle cell membrane, while adrenaline produces more cyclic AMP in the muscle cell membrane than in the liver cell membrane. Insulin decreases the formation of cyclic AMP in liver cell membrane. Action on intracellular enzyme systems. Certain hormones activate or inhibit specific enzyme systems within the cell. For example, ACTH activates glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase in the liver. Insulin increases the activity of the enzyme glucose kinase, glucose 6-phosphorylase in the liver. Action on cell nucleus. Few hormones are able to control the activity of specific genes and thus regulate the synthesis of mRNA and hence the enzymes present in the cells. Some hormones isotopically labeled and are found in the nucleus. The steroid hormones increase the synthesis of all types of RNA by the nucleus. Current evidence indicates that hormones acting on nucleus and regulating RNA and protein synthesis do so by influencing the enzymes and RNA involved in protein synthesis. Now, let's discuss the general functions of the hormones. First, they change the permeability of the cell membrane, accelerate the penetration of substrates, enzymes, coenzymes into the cell and out of the cell. Second, they act on the allosteric centers, thereby affecting the activity of enzymes, hormones penetrating membranes. Third, they affect the activity of enzymes through the messengers, that is, cyclic AMP. The hormones which cannot penetrate the membrane acts on the genetic apparatus of the cell, nucleus, DNA and promote the synthesis of enzymes, for example, steroid and thyroid hormones. Hormonal receptor system. Hormonal receptors are based on their site of action. They are intracellular receptor, cell surface receptors and based on secondary messenger systems. First, intracellular receptors. These are located inside target cells in the cytoplasm or nucleus and function as ligand-dependent transcription factors. The hormone receptor complex binds to promoter regions of responsive genes and stimulates or sometimes inhibits transcription from those genes. Intracellular receptors are composed of a single polypeptide chain that has three distinct domains: the amino terminus, DNA binding domain, and the carboxy terminus or ligand binding domain. Steroid and thyroid hormones act on these receptors. Second, cell surface receptors. These are located on the plasma membrane of target cells. Binding of hormone to receptor initiates a series of events which leads to generation of second messengers within the cell. The second messengers then trigger a series of molecular interactions that alter the physiological state of the cell. Cell surface receptors are integral membrane proteins. They are composed of three parts: protein and peptide hormones, and catecholamines act on these receptors. Third, based on second messenger systems. Water-soluble hormones act through binding to cell surface receptors and activation of one of the second messenger systems. Multiple hormones utilize the same second messenger system. Also, a single hormone can utilize more than one system. The small signal generated by hormone binding to its receptor is amplified within the cell into a cascade of actions that changes the cell's physiological state. Examples are cyclic AMP, protein kinase activity, cyclic GMP, and calcium or phosphatidylinosteroid. Now, transportation of hormones in the human body. Hormones are secreted directly into the blood. Peptide and protein hormones are secreted by exocytosis. Steroid or lipophilic hormones continuously penetrate the membrane. They are not accumulated in cells. Their concentration in blood is determined by the speed of synthesis. The hormones, which are protein and peptide in nature, are circulated in free state. Steroid hormones and hormones of thyroid gland are bound with alpha globulins or albumins. Catecholamines can be found both in free state or bound with albumins, sulfates or glucuronic acid, which reach the target organs based on their specific receptors. Now, let us learn in detail about the endocrine gland. Endocrine glands are a highly specialized group of cells responsible for making hormones. These glands are located throughout entire body. Each gland plays a specific role in the production of a particular hormone or group of hormones. These hormones are required to carry out specific functions and to keep the body in homeostasis or continual balance. In order to perform with maximum level of efficiency, homeostasis is highly significant. To maintain homeostatic balance, certain hormones are sent to specific cells and tissues to trigger a sensation which generates heat within the body, and this leads to symptoms of shivering and chattering of teeth. This alerts the body to be kept warm so that normalizing the internal temperature restores normal functions of body. In case of continued fall of body temperature, the body temperature reduces further. Organs and systems will slowly malfunction. Apart from regulation of homeostasis, they react to specific stimuli, regulates the growth, development and reproduction. They also produce and store energy. Endocrine glands and their related organs join to work like small factories. The specific endocrine gland receives message from the pituitary gland, which is also known as the master gland, stating how much hormone is needed and what is the site of action. The hormone then moves in the bloodstream till it reaches the targeted tissues or cells. These tissues and cells will have receptors which serve as binding sites for the attachment of the hormone. Once the hormone gets attached to the binding sites, the hormone carries out its specific role to maintain homeostatic balance. Location of the endocrine glands and role of hypothalamus. The pituitary gland is found inside the skull, just above the nasal passages. It is considered the master gland as it ensures the timely production and delivery of every hormone in the body. Hypothalamus plays an essential role in delivery of messages to and fro from respective endocrine glands throughout the body. Now let's learn about the various glands of endocrine system and the hormones secreted by them with their functions. First, the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland consists of two parts. First, the neurohypophysis or posterior lobe, and second, the adenohypophysis or anterior lobe. The human pituitary weighs about 0.5 grams in the adult, the adenohypophysis constituting 75% of the total weight. Functionally, both parts are controlled by hypothalamus. The anterior pituitary secretes luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone, which acts on the gonads. In female, LH stimulates the menstruation cycle. In male, FSH stimulates testicular growth. Prolactin stimulates the secretion of milk in the mammary gland developed by the action of estrogen and progesterone. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, which acts on the adrenal cortex to regulate the secretion of glucocorticoids. ACTH stimulates the formation of corticosteroids from the cholesterol. Cortisol affects carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. It helps in coping with stress. Decreased activity of ACTH causes Addison's disease, which affects weight loss, low blood pressure, general weakness and can lead to heart failure. The hyperactivity of the ACTH results in Cushing syndrome, which causes obesity, increased blood sugar levels and high blood pressure. Growth hormone, which acts on bone, muscle and liver. The growth hormone affects the metabolism of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. Thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotropin, which stimulates the release of thyroxine and triiodothyronine from thyroid gland. In absence of pituitary gland, thyroxine synthesis does not take place and condition is known as myxedema. The thyrotropic hormone increases the rates of these reactions. First, removal of inorganic iodide from blood by thyroid. Second, incorporation of iodide in the thyroid hormone. Third, release of thyroxine from the thyroid gland to circulation. The posterior pituitary secretes the hormones secreted by the neurohypophysis or posterior pituitary are vasopressin, oxytocin and coherin. A brief account of the chemistry and functions of these hormones are given below. Vasopressin. Vasopressin is the antidiuretic hormone. It is a polypeptide containing 9 amino acid residues. Vasopressin exerts a marked effect on the kidney tubules, accelerating the rate of water reabsorption from the distal tubules. The half-life of the hormone is approximately 1 minute due to rapid inactivation in blood and excretion by the kidney. The regulation of absorption rate of water per minute is due to the ADH. Oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone secreted by the neurohypophysis. Its secretion is controlled by hypothalamus. It acts on the smooth muscle of uterus and causes contraction of the muscle. It plays an important role during childbirth. Coherin. Coherin is a hormone secreted by the neurohypophysis. It induces prolonged rhythmic integrated contraction of the jejunum. Adenohypophysis releases a number of hormones. Corticotropin-releasing hormone stimulates the release of ACTH from anterior pituitary. They may be broadly divided into two groups: trophic hormones vis-à-vis thyrotropic hormones TCH, adrenocorticotropic ACTH. First, gonadotropin-releasing hormone, which stimulates the release of FSH, and LH from anterior pituitary luteinizing hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, and growth hormone, somatotropin, prolactin, and lipotrophins. Growth hormone releasing hormone GHRH stimulates the release of growth hormone from anterior pituitary. Specific hormones secreted by hypothalamus regulate release of these hormones. The first category are called trophic hormones as they stimulate other endocrine glands to secrete hormones, while the second group of hormones act directly on the tissues concerned. Prolactin-releasing hormone stimulates the release of prolactin from anterior pituitary. Thyrotropin-releasing hormone stimulates the release of thyroid-stimulating hormone, which also stimulates the prolactin release. Thyroid gland secretes and regulates thyroxine and triiodothyronine, acting on metabolism also. They increase cellular metabolic rates. Parathyroid gland secretes parathyroid hormone, regulates calcium homeostasis. The parathyroid hormone PTH is involved in regulation of the calcium levels in the blood are produced by parathyroid hormones. The PTH increases the reabsorption of calcium in the kidneys and uptake of calcium from the digestive system. Pancreas secretes insulin and glucagon. Both control glucose level in the blood. Hormones insulin and glucagon regulates the metabolism of blood glucose, each with an opposite effect. Insulin stimulates its target cells to take up and use glucose. This action lowers blood glucose levels. Glucagon stimulates its cells to break down stored glycogen and increase glucose levels in the blood. The adrenal gland. Adrenal gland is composed of adrenal cortex, which secretes aldosterone, which increases blood volume by reabsorption of sodium in kidneys, thus maintains salt and water balance cortisol, which affects glucose metabolism and immune status, regulates carbohydrate and protein metabolism. Androstenedione is an anabolic male hormone and substrate for estrogen. Adrenal medulla secretes. Catecholamines include epinephrine and norepinephrine, which acts as neurotransmitters. It initiates body's response to stress and the impulsive reflex to danger. Gonads. Testes secretes androgens, regulates the male sex hormones including testosterone and dihydrotestosterone. Gonads are gamete-producing organs. They are also involved in production of hormones known as steroid sex hormones. Sex hormones regulate the body changes that begin with puberty. Puberty is the adolescent stage during which the individual sex organs mature and secondary sex characteristics such as facial hair appear. Testosterone is an androgen that regulates male secondary sex characteristics. They are required for normal sperm production and the development of physical characteristics, secondary sex characteristics associated with the male puberty. These characteristics include the growth of facial hair, increase in body size, and deepening of the voice. Ovary secretes estrogens, the female sex hormones, including estradiol, estrone and progesterone, which maintains the growth of uterine lining. Estrogens are required for the development of ova and for the formation of the physical characteristics, secondary sex characteristics associated with the female. The characteristics include the development of female reproductive system, the menstrual cycle begins, widening of the hips and development of the breasts. Hormone irregularities and disorders. Hormonal disorders cause many health disorders. Major health problems with hormones are thyroid hormone, hypothyroid and hypothyroidism. The underproduction and overproduction of the thyroid hormone leads to these two conditions. As thyroid hormone regulates the energy metabolism and basal metabolic rate, the overall health gets affected. Also, the interaction of thyroid status and diabetes has also shown few association. Insulin hormone. Resistance to hormone insulin is a characteristic feature associated with diabetes type 2. India is the second largest population in the world with this type of diabetes. Insulin resistance means the inability to control the blood glucose with normal levels of insulin. This happens due to an abnormal insulin molecule or due to target tissue defects. So, dear students, this was all about today's deliberation. Hope you have learned some new exciting things. Thank you for your attention. Have a great day ahead. Goodbye.